Jeff, who better to get for our Heart of Sports book club than two of the best award-winning journalists, writers that there are out there. The book is out this week called The House of Wolves. James Patterson and Mike Lupica, thank you so much for the time today.
Oh, we're great to be here. Go Eagles.
It's a fun time. In Philadelphia, we get nervous when we win. Jeff will tell you that. So we're very uneasy by the fact that we're in the playoffs as the 1 seed, but we didn't play great coming down the stretch. So
yeah, and just so we're clear, one of us is a Giants fan.
Lupica. Jalen's back.
That's right. Yeah, he's back. And look, he looked a lot better on Sunday. So we'll see what comes out of that. But let's get to the book because there are more twists and turns and rivalries than you can keep track of in this book. And you grab the reader at chapter 1. Talk to us about the development of this book and where the concept came from to start.
Both of us are fascinated with these powerful, messed up, dysfunctional families. Like, we both love Yellowstone, that TV series, and Succession, and going back a ways to Corleones. And, like right now, this week, the two big books are going to be Harry's book, Prince Harry, and House of Wolves. And, Harry, the royal family, so he gets slapped around by his brother a little bit, and he can't talk to his dad. That's nothing compared to the Wolf family. The Wolf family, they're tough. They're mean. They're really mean to one another. So that really drew us into it. And then the sports side of it, because the Wolf family, they own the San Francisco football team. And that's where House of Wolves come from. The team is called the name of in the book. It's the Wolves.
So if this is the two books are the ones that you said are going to be the most read this week, which family is more dysfunctional? Your family or the royal family?
The Wolves. But the thing about the Wolves is they're not whiners. They're not whiners.
No, they're definitely not in this book. And you look at the main character. Let's talk about creating her, a strong woman who is both a high school football coach and reluctantly goes on to run the football team. She didn't want anything to do with it. How did you develop Jenny Wolfe?
Well, I'll tell you what. Well, first of all, we write strong female characters. Our wives, this is their favorite book. They think it's our. No, seriously, they're tough. My wife's tough. Sue Patterson's tough. They think this is our best book, and it's cousin Jenny Wolfe. Jenny Wolfe is a great character who has no backup in her. I have a daughter who has 3 older brothers. She thinks Jenny is modeled on her. Okay, and
she might be.
She might be. But we were. If the Royals went up against the Wolves, okay, if you were choosing up sides, the Wolves win. The Royals.
No comparison.
Oh, my brother's mean to me. Well, guess what? Jenny slugs her brother too, and that's just her way of saying good morning.
And God knows they may have killed their dad. Who knows? You got to read the book.
The Wolves seem more surprised when they're nice to each other, by the way, in the book.
Yes. And the Duttons, the football team in the newspaper in our book are like the ranch in Yellowstone. It really, it's a family business. It's a dysfunctional family, and a whole lot of stuff happens. And Jim's right. You're not sure, the motto of the Wolf family is kill or be killed.
Yeah. And the mob does play a part. And we did an interview and they asked us about the mob. And I said, are you talking about the NFL owners?
Well, that brings up another point, though, with regard to dysfunction. When you talk about dysfunction, the NFL owners seem to be more dysfunctional than most. When you look at this, what was the model for? Was it the NFL? Were there other leagues what was the model for all of the dysfunction in your book?
NFL's fit right in. NBA probably fits in too.
I wrote a nonfiction book.
NCAA they fit in.
I wrote a nonfiction book called Mad as Hell about sports fans. It was about, I can't remember what it was. I can't remember anything. But I always said, never make the assumption that the owner of the team knows more than somebody sitting at the top of the stadium. Do not make that assumption, because you will be disappointed if you think that some of these people actually know what they're doing. And these owners are the caretaker of a public trust. That sounds highfalutin, but it's true. And I think they lose sight of what, and then Jenny gets thrown into this. The House of Wolves is the family, but another House of Wolves in our book are the other owners who want no part of Jenny Wolfe having anything to do with this football team. And so she she's not only competing against her brothers, she's competing against all those other owners, the commissioner, and oh, by the way, there may be a couple of people bumped off in this book. We don't like to spoil anything, but one of Patterson's first rules of fiction is no one is safe. And I'm telling you, in this book, no one is safe.
Well, the problem is, in reality, nobody is safe anymore. When you look at your book and the dysfunction among the owners in your league, how do you compare it to what's going on with the dysfunction of somebody like Dan Snyder?
Well, they haven't bumped people off that we know about.
Yet.
Yet.
If we were doing this book and we were putting it up on its legs, if I had gone to Jim and said, let's have this, and I described what Snyder's actually done in Washington, Jim would say, well, nobody's ever going to believe that.
These things people do believe, though. You know, it's like it's hard for fiction to keep up with real life. Years ago, a long time ago, Philip Roth, famous Philip Roth, he said, I can't write fiction anymore because I can't keep up with reality. That was a long time ago. It was calm back then. Now it's nuts, and now it is hard to write fiction.
Talk some about the relation. It wasn't just all against her with the other owners. She did have some advocates. Can you talk a little bit about sort of the dichotomy of the owners that you presented, which sort of mirrors the owners in the NFL from their age and their approach and their sort of view on things?
Yeah, one of the LA owners is very much an advocate of Jenny's in this book. And no, she wouldn't have been able to to even attempt to hold on to the team if she didn't have the ability to negotiate with these people. That's what I love about Jenny. One of the things we love about Jenny, and there's a lot of things we love about Jenny, is she kind of has more of her old man in her than she ever knew. She's teaching high school and coaching high school football, and then she gets thrown into this kill or be killed world.
You know, and I've collaborated with President Clinton and collaborated with Dolly Parton, whatever. And one of the things that they brought to the party was authenticity. So with Clinton, it was, about the presidency and how that stuff worked. And with Dolly, it was country music. And then with Mike, it's the authenticity of the football stuff in here. It's very real. I mean, you watch different plays and whatever, and it feels, I think, in my opinion, it really feels very authentic and real and whatever. And the stuff about the owners and whatever is kind of, like you kind of nod.
Hey, guess what?
But the cleaning ladies here, you want to come in? You want to be part of this? Come on in.
We have.
Has she read the book yet?
Okay. Guys know there's so much that happens. You can't even describe all the stuff that happens. It's like a theme park, this book. Okay. But what you find out about this young woman and this family is that it's a skill set that she didn't know she had. And when you look at some of these other owners, we couldn't have made up a guy like Dolan in New York who has facial recognition now in case he doesn't like some fan who has been mean to him.
Mike cannot get into Madison Square Garden.
No, I could. No,
well, that was Mike. You said a fan, but I would think that your facial recognition has a big X on it too. There.
No, he can't. What did you say? He couldn't even get in the walkway.
No, I would walk under. They'd be on me from the time I was walking past the marquee out on 7th Avenue. And when I look at, I've really, how you have all these naming rights now. Lincoln Financial, all that stuff. Okay. I now call it in my column the facial recognition Madison Square Garden, because that's how people think of it now. And Spike Lee is the biggest Knicks fan of all time. He's on Dolan's list. That was the fun of writing these owners and trying to keep up with the reality of what sports owners are really like in this day and age.
I can't get into Madison Square Garden just because I know him.
So we've had Charles Oakley on this show. So who gets in first, Mike, you or Charles?
Charles. No, yeah, Charles probably. Listen, I had my dust ups with Dolan. Okay, they never carried me out like they did.
The vindictiveness of the owners does come through in this book. There is something else that I found that was interesting, and I don't know if you could have predicted this. At the start of the book, you had a game canceled due to a player collapsing on the field with the ambulance coming on, and I'm wondering what you thought when you saw that play out in real life just weeks ago.
It blew our minds. And fortunately, this kid turned out and he's okay. And our book, it's a drug overdose, but a player dies on the field. and the ambulances. And when it happened, Mike, we were both watching the game, and Mike called up and he said, "Do you see this shit?" I mean, it was, yes, we did.
That scene, it's I think it's the start of chapter 5. I could be wrong on the number of the chapter. I went right back there, and it's even more weird than that. The player who dies in our book is named Harmon, and this kid from the Bills is named Hamlin, and the ambulance on the field, the game being discontinued at this point. It was a very weird. I mean, in so many ways, but just because of that scene in our book is a very weird moment for us.
And we've done some negative stuff about the NFL, and we're not really that negative on the NFL, but the NFL in real life, it was amazing. If that kid had fallen over in the street or fallen over in a hospital, I don't think he'd be alive. But that's how good they were that night, in terms of getting to him immediately.
One of the things that comes across, even just from this interview, is how well the two of you seem to get along.
You're pretty well, don't
we? You're very well.
You're both very accomplished, strong men. Is it hard to write a book together, and what is the biggest challenge of doing that?
I don't think there's ever been a challenge. We do get along great. I think the only challenge is he'll call 7 or 8 times a day. Well, and yesterday, this is a true story. We were riding along, and I did call my agent. I said, "Get rid of him, please. I can't take it anymore."
He tried to get out of a moving car yesterday to get away from that.
Well, the only thing with the car is they know we're like 10 years old, so they put the child locks.
Well, there's that. Yeah.
Out of context, that "get rid of him" could have been a line from the Wolves family right there. You guys may be adopting some of your characters there. The last book you had come out together was sort of towards the end of the COVID lockdowns, and I saw you say you didn't really get to do a book tour like you're doing now. What does it mean to get you to get to interact with the fans that will be out there, that will get to see and talk to you?
God, we did Kingston, New York at 7 this morning. It was great.
Jim's always looking to meet new people. I mean,
you guys are good, actually. Some of it's been a little hairy. There were a couple of them you can like. What?
No, we couldn't. We did one event for the Horsewoman, and it was a huge event.
We did 2. One was a horror show.
Yeah, yeah. One was in an assisted.
Why?
Well, I was in an assisted living facility, but
they were falling asleep. It was weird.
And Jim kept going, hey, you in the front row. But we have had we're appearing in front of 300 and 400 people a night, and it's a blast. And we take questions, and we have it's live audiences. If you do what we do, it's a lot of fun.
And you just make stuff up, just like the congressman in New York. We just literally make stuff up. Doesn't matter.
Like he's making up that he doesn't like me. He actually loves being with me.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. Speaking of making things up, Mike, you live in 2 worlds. You live in a world where you're a sports columnist and deal with fact, and then you live in this world where you get to make up a separate reality. Is it hard going back and forth between the fact and the fiction?
No, I'll tell you why. And I have always said this: writing a newspaper column is perfect training for being a storyteller. You have to have a good beginning, a middle, and end. You got to use dialogue. No, those little 1,000-word bursts of storytelling were perfect preparation, because Jim said this earlier today. You can write a good beginning and you can write a good ending, but if you're good at middles, then you got something.
So you win the Pulitzer Prize if you write middles.
You talk about the storytelling.
His background as a newspaper guy. I mean, we both were prolific, to put it mildly, and we chop wood. I mean, we get up in the morning, we chop wood, and we love to do it. That's the beauty of it.
Jim, you were an advertising man first. I
saw you for over 25 years.
Your grandmother said, "Hungry dogs run faster." I've always been a hungry dog. Talk about your passion for storytelling and how you learned to be such a prolific writer.
I think, reading and writing, whatever, sort of got me through my youth. And then I worked in a mental hospital, worked my way through college, and I worked a lot of night shifts. And mostly it was quiet, and I started reading like a mad person, and then I started scribbling, and I loved it. I loved telling stories and writing stories. And Mike and I have talked about this. My thing when I'm writing is I pretend there's somebody sitting across from me, and I don't want them to get up till I finish the story. And that's the way. That's both my strength and my weakness. The fact that don't put the book down. And the weakness is sometimes I don't go as deep. With Mike, it's helpful because we go deeper because he has all the sports information and the authenticity and all that stuff. So that helps. That's one of the reasons I think that the collaboration with Mike is so good.
You know, Mike, I've wanted to ask you this question for a while now. Can you bring back the sports reporters, and you can bring him along with it?
Patterson would have fit right in with our group. Okay.
Perfectly.
And
yes.
we were on for 28 years and I had an awful lot of fun. I was telling Jim yesterday, I did more of them than anybody on the planet. I got to sit next to Dick Schaap, and then I got to sit next to my friend John Saunders and Mitch and Bob and Roden and all those guys. It's still, sometimes people come up and they say, I love your show. And I said, well, you know, we've been off the air for like 4 years now. And then, spoiler alert, we're gone. But thank you. No, it was, we held down a prime piece of real estate on Sunday mornings on ESPN. And we're still kind of trying to figure out why they banged us, because we hadn't lost a single rating point or sponsor when they canceled us.
You know, well, you hadn't lost these viewers, that's for sure.
The fame thing is kind of weird. I was in an Italian restaurant last week, and they took my wife and I down the aisle, and this lady pops up and she says, I know you. You sold us our life insurance.
Well, we'll work on getting.
Wait, you were in advertising, did you?
Might have. Oh, I know. I would never be in the life insurance business in South Florida.
You've done okay for yourself, Jim.
That's a big thing. Don't insure people in South
Florida. He has done all right, but you know, when we got together, I said, you know, here's a guy that needs a boost. You know,
he needed help.
Mike,
that's definitely
it's
right.
time for you to give back, Mike, and you know, so that's what happened.
Well, look, the book is The House of Wolves. You will not regret going to get it. It is a fascinating read that goes fast. James Patterson, Mike Lupica, thank you so much for the time. Best of luck with this latest book.
Great.
Thank you. It's really fun. Really fun. Thank you.